Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of Postnatal Minds podcast. Today, I'm joined by Julia. Hi, Julia. I've been really looking forward to doing today's episode because Julia and I caught up briefly a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, stop in our conversation because I just wanted to hear it all again and the whole story. And I just knew within 1 minute of talking that it was going to be a really interesting episode. So yeah, Julia, without further ado, do you want to introduce yourself, where you live, how many children you have?
Sure. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm 34, live in Hove, together with my husband Sam. I've got one baby, Romy. She was born in May last year, and work as a creative producer. Obviously, I'm on mat leave at the moment, but I work here in Brighton, and I'm from Germany originally, but I've lived here 10 years now, which is crazy.
Practically a Brightonian if you've been
I
here
would
10
definitely
years.
consider myself one for sure. Yeah, I came here in my 20s for an internship and to learn English, and I just absolutely fell in love with the city, and then fell in love with the man, and have not left.
Here you are now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Where are you?
A marketing agency here in Brighton called PMG. Yeah, I've worked there nearly 3 years now, and I've got an amazing, very, very supportive environment, an amazing
That's
boss.
so nice.
And it's been that was like part of the postpartum adjustment to not be there and to live with FOMO a little bit whilst adjusting to a whole different life. But
Yeah, I feel like that's how you know you've got a good job, if you get FOMO.
and that you work with lovely people, and
Mm.
I know for sure it's those kind of people that make you when you're around them, just make you bring up the best in you, and I think that's
Yeah.
never had
Well,
that
it's like another family, isn't it?
yeah,
Your work family, you spend more time with them than any others.
absolutely.
So you've got one baby girl, and you had an interesting pregnancy and birth. And yeah, where do we start?
God, yeah, it's a very, very long story. Yeah, you can just put it into 2 chapters really. I had a really difficult mental health wise, really difficult pregnancy, and then physically a really hard time postpartum. So unfortunately there still isn't a happy end, but there are very many little happy moments in quite difficult times.
Yeah. So when you were pregnant, had you been trying for long? And at what point did you know that your journey was going to be a bit different?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a funny story the way I found out I was pregnant, but that's a story for over a glass of wine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the sort of story that you kind of you tell your mates, and then everyone looks at you, and so yeah, I'll tell
I
you.
look forward to that one.
But,
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with PCOS when just like I think 6 months before I got pregnant, and my narrative was, okay, we'll have to go through fertility clinics and all of that, and it's going to be really, really difficult. And we got engaged, and I was in absolute wedding focus and bought my wedding dress and everything, completely not expecting to be pregnant, and then found out through quite a funny blood test because I thought something else was going on, and turned to my husband and was like, I'm pregnant. And that was it. So I was already quite I think I was 11 weeks by that point.
Wow. So you found out quite late.
Trimester.
Oh, lucky you. I feel
know,
like that first trimester is so long. Yeah, that's a good
I know. In
thing.
hindsight now, not knowing what I know now, I think that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because then we just, I don't know, I didn't live in disbelief. Like it just felt completely surreal, which I'm sure it feels to. It's nothing you can grasp for quite a long time, is it? When you're pregnant, especially the first
so
time.
True.
Like, right, I'm pregnant, but I don't know what any of this means yet, and I don't know what's ahead of me, which is a good thing as well. I mean, I had all the symptoms, literally everything. I ticked all the boxes under the sun. But then, so what then made it all really complicated was when I think I was around like 18, 19 weeks pregnant. And I think there was a little bit of a trigger on social media. So I followed this German artist, who I absolutely, this artwork is actually by him. I absolutely adore him. And he posted on Instagram when I was, I think I must have been around like 18, 19 weeks pregnant, that he unfortunately had a stillbirth. I mean, he experienced a stillbirth with his wife, and that with pregnancy hormones and all of that, I just couldn't let go of that. Like it
Oh,
hit
really?
right in the heart.
Really triggered you.
It was beautifully written with pictures and all of that, and I was fortunate enough to chat to him in lockdown, and I'm just very fond of him. He's a very, very cool artist, very cool designer, and a very lovely man. And the fact that he went through that just really broke my heart on their behalf. And then that was the first time I thought, oh my God, this can actually happen. And
Yeah, the risk is there.
yeah, exactly. And I became absolutely hyper aware of it, and
Okay.
and that kind of like coincided with when you go to all your midwife appointments, and there's always I think it's a charity called Kicks UK or something like that. So it's about the baby's movement.
Yeah.
Tell you everything you read up from week, I would imagine like 18, 19 is you need to monitor the baby's movement. And I completely crumbled with that responsibility on me. And then I, unfortunately, then had found out that I had an anterior placenta. So they say it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it can mean something. And in my case, it absolutely did, because we had ultrasounds where we saw her moving loads, but I couldn't feel anything. And,
And Julia, just before you go on, are you an anxious person anyway? Like, so when you say you were triggered, it was your predisposition, like you had some anxiety before, right?
Yeah, I tend to like catastrophize quite a lot, and
Okay.
I've always usually I'm the person that in my mind quite often jumps to the worst case scenario.
Okay.
And my God, did it jump to the worst case scenario every single day. So that was I think it was, if you take an anxious person and then time that, put all the pregnancy hormones into that, and life changing, and everything, it just massively enhanced all of that feeling, and just blew it up massively.
Was that your 20-week scan where you found out about the anterior placenta?
I think we found out earlier, because we did a private scan as well before.
Okay.
But no one said like, oh, by the way, you've got an anterior placenta. I think I just found it out, or just read through one of the reports you get after. And I knew from just reading up on podcasts and stuff that can what that can mean. Obviously, there's nothing bad at all. It just means that it's there's an organ in between you and the baby, and when you don't have an anterior placenta, that's not there, so that goes right onto the tummy. So that was definitely it was a big factor. I just then really, really struggled with panic attacks, so I was really set. It was awful. It's usually in the night that I got into this really horrible spiral of waiting for her to move, feeling relieved, and then it's starting all over again. And then by the time it was the evening, where I was laying in bed and still, where people said, when you lay still, you can feel them, have a glass of cold water. I was like, okay, I should feel her moving. And if I didn't feel her moving, and then I almost gaslit myself as well when I felt her. Like, but did I?
Did you? Yeah.
Horrendous. And
so that real like ruminating thought and the cyclic thinking, and that really not getting any relief then within that anxious kind of mindset.
What then gave me relief briefly was that you can go to MAU, so there's a hotline or phone number you can call, and they tell you, especially with reduced movements, whether they're real or not. They tell you to come in, they check you out straight away. And that's what they did, and that's what I needed to do. I'm not on a daily basis, but on a very, very regular basis. So we ended up driving to the hospital, I would say, like 3 times a week. Yeah. And it was horrendous. Yeah, it was for my husband. It was so stressful as well, because for him in particular, he was there with every step of the way, but he couldn't experience what I experienced, and he wanted to share that responsibility, but obviously that responsibility was solely on
to you.
And it was really hard. And then got the relief from whenever they used like the Doppler, or further along in pregnancy they used the CTG. I got brief relief, and knowing that she was fine, but then it would start all over again, and it was really bad. And then annoyingly, then the more often you go to MAU, it triggers growth scans, so they send you to a specialist in hospital, I think after like 4 or 5 times, because they want to investigate why you're going through reduced movement episodes, whether they're real or not. In my case, I would say they weren't real. It was in my head, but I just couldn't feel her moving
Really?
through a placenta. Yeah.
So your experience of care within that was good, because I know that sometimes women have felt like a burden, and that might sometimes stop them from, ringing or getting help, or it'll be fine. And but it sounds like you had quite good care in that sense.
In MAU, we did absolutely because everything, the whole pregnancy, everything that was under midwife care was incredible. Like midwives, I have such a insane respect for, and so much. I
Yeah,
don't think I've met a single midwife, and I would say I met them all in
yeah,
Brighton. Um,
yeah.
that wasn't amazing, but the struggle then started with medical intervention. So when we were referred to the consultant, so that was what really turned the pregnancy into something really, really
Okay.
beautiful. And
So how far gone were you at that point?
it's a good question. I think I was around maybe like 26 weeks. So yeah, it must have been around that time, 26, 28. So when they slowly start talking about birth, that it was around that time, yeah. And
Okay.
then we've been referred to a growth specialist in Brighton, and she is very well known in the world of healthcare or health pregnancy care in Brighton. And I know everyone's different. And one of my friends saw her as well, and they had an entirely different experience. But we unfortunately had a really bad experience. And I think what I needed was that. I just needed someone to tell me
Reassurance.
everything was okay. Exactly. Yeah. So the first time we went, we had a half an hour scan, and she didn't say a word. So I was laying there, I could feel like my legs going, and I could feel like shaking because she didn't even tell me that there was a heartbeat. And we were there for reassurance. And then she was like, "Why are you here? And you taking appointments away from people that need it."
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it might be that your placenta is not working. It might be that the baby has a genetic disposition. There might be loads of things wrong, but there was no evidence for anything. She didn't look at any of the records or anything. And yeah, it was horrendous. And then the second time we went, every time we went, she found something else. And then the third time we went, she said to us after that, she did the scan, and she kept measuring, and Ray was measuring behind, but like consistently. And she didn't stop growing or anything. It was consistently. So in like week 28, she would measure 26 weeks or something. And I could
Okay.
always tell because it says it on the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, but she's growing, she's just smaller. And then she sat us down and she was like, "Oh yeah, I just need to let you know, there's no other evidence, but it might be that she's got Down syndrome." And we were like, "Okay, that's a big thing to just say to us, like nearly on our way out." And she didn't look at. We did the combined screening at 12 weeks and all of that, and she didn't look at.
God, this is like blowing my mind, because we had the same thing with Alba.
Really?
It's just, yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Oh my god, that my heart
Yeah.
goes up. It's like it's the worst, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably like then when we went through everything we went through with Arlo, I didn't really believe them because of that. I was like, oh, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. Like they always say things, they always measure small, da 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 da. But I think that just again shows how important it is how we're treated.
Absolutely.
Because they're the things you remember, and there's got to be, alongside medical intervention or medical observation, there's got to be warmth and reassurance, and sometimes it's just not there.
Yeah, being from Germany, the healthcare system is a lot different there. You always see the same consultant, you see the same throughout your pregnancy, you would see the same gynecologist. So I would have the gynecologist assigned from the age of 16, and that you see the same person who knows all your medical history, they know everything about you. So they have a whole different level of being able to give you reassurance. And I was craving that. I needed someone to say, almost like someone for me to tell me to get it together. I almost needed someone to actually be like,
some boundaries, yes, warm
my brain
boundaries.
didn't have them anymore. So I would just go down, 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 almost like thinking, right, if the more I envision for things to go wrong, the more prepared I will be. And that's obviously not the case at all. You're just going through something, a narrative you made up in your head, but it's very far away from the reality. But yeah, she told us this, and then she was like, yeah, you can go get an amniocentesis in London at King's College. You can pay for a private NIPT test. And by that time, we were so insecure and we were so not sure what was going on. We had no idea. And then I went back to MAU and I said, please, can you put this into perspective? And then they referred me to a screening midwife, and she was talking about termination of pregnancy. And I think at that point I was 33 weeks pregnant. So she's talking about like termination of pregnancy for something where there's absolutely no evidence, like still blows my mind that that was the case.
How is that allowed to happen?
Yeah, but by that point, I was already so low that was my lowest point, pretty much. Like we went to grab some lunch after, and I had this insanely strong urge to quit. And I was not like it was not like nothing I've ever experienced before, other than in a job that made me really unhappy, where I just wanted to quit, and I was desperate that I couldn't, and that I was trapped in the situation. Oh my God, it was horrendous. And after that, I said to my husband, we were just getting lunch here, and I said to him, like, I'm not suicidal, and I don't want to do anything, but I have this urge to just like walk into the traffic.
Escape.
I just want to get out. Yeah,
and really, it's like fight or flight, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was a constant fight or flight. And we spent the whole weekend thinking, are we going to do this amniocentesis? Like, are we going to pay for the test? Because if she has Down syndrome, obviously that will not change our love.
It's a whole other conversation, though, isn't it? It's a whole other journey.
Yeah, and you want them then to have doctors being prepared, or you want the doctors to be prepared if that's the case. And with birth, there's a different scenario, and she almost like, she bullied me into having a C-section as well, because she said, well, if the baby's small, then it's a lot harder for a vaginal birth. And yeah, so decided for a C-section, or opted for that. And yeah, she like changed my whole perception. I mean, obviously it was bad before, but it was a lot worse through that.
And your husband must have been incredibly worried about you at that point.
Yeah, totally. And it was like, I think for him the worst thing was that he felt so on the outside of it, that he wanted to share, as I said before, that he wanted to share that responsibility and to share what I was going through, but he just couldn't. And yeah, an absolutely incredible midwife. She was amazing, like to this point, one of the best people I've ever met. And we saw her weekly because of all of this. And she always put things into perspective, and she measured my bump, and she was like, it's all fine, like your bump measure's fine. I'm not tall, I'm 5'4". My husband isn't a giant. And so all the women in my husband's family and my family, no one's tall. So
yeah,
some people are just a bit more petite than others, and no one said your daughter might just be a little bit more petite.
Yeah, and also their measurements are only ever so accurate as well. Were you ever referred to the perinatal mental health team?
Yeah, that was a bit of a letdown as well.
Okay.
I was referred by the midwife, and they talked to me. They did an assessment and all of that, and they said, "Yeah, well, we don't actually think that you've got the time to do counselling. So you should do online. We'll give you access to an online platform." And that just had like lots of documents on OCD, thinking, and anxiety, but that wasn't helpful at all, because I was still working. I was going through all of this.
You didn't have the time
to actually sit down and like university.
Probably didn't have the concentration.
Absolutely, yeah. I needed I just needed someone to say, "You'll be absolutely fine. Everything's fine." And someone to just say, "All you're experiencing is normal. Like this happens." And yeah, no one did, and that was the hardest thing about it. And I think if that would have happened, then it would have all been a lot different,
Well, hindsight is a great thing, and the learning experience you have. So you get through those last weeks, the third trimester. What did that look like for you?
You know what? Like going back to that now, I think I've almost like forgot about
blocked it out.
I mean, work was I worked until I was 38 weeks, because it was an amazing distraction, and that was the one thing that got me through it. And that was just having the structure in the day, not having the time to think about it. Yeah, then we got I think, no, you know what? It was actually Dawn, our midwife, who at some point she put her foot down. She was like, I don't want you to see that consultant again. So in between all of this, we got married and had a lovely wedding. But that also massively added to the stress, because I was like, what if on that day I can't feel her move and all of that? But
Oh,
it was fine, but it was very stressful in the lead up to it. But yeah,
yeah.
she put her foot down then and said, I don't want you to see that consultant anymore. I'm going to refer you to someone else in Haywards Heath. And yeah, we saw that lady in Haywards Heath, and she was really, really good. She was really lovely, and she said, baby's got chubby cheeks and she's looks really healthy, and that put our mind at ease a little bit more. And then we mentioned the C-section that was mentioned by the consultant in Brighton, and she was like, right, I'll book you in. So there was no, again, like there was no like, you might want to consider or anything. She like immediately gave us the date. And by that point, because I felt so out of control and so exhausted,
Unheld. Yeah.
and the idea of the C-section sounded really, really
Appealing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that feeling.
yeah, because you've got it all planned, right? You know exactly
Well,
what's
everything's so uncertain, and I don't know if you can relate to this, because I was just thinking about what you were saying about that inability to escape your situation. But a C-section for me allowed an end mark to the current feeling I had. So it was like, he will be out, and it won't just be me feeling and managing getting through this. It will be so much better when he's actually here, because we'll know a lot of things we don't know now, and we'll be able to start moving into that next chapter. So the C-section date allowed me to like work towards that relieving feeling.
Yes, 100%. It was.
Yeah.
We talked about this last night actually. When she was out, it was I don't even know what kind of feeling was there predominantly, whether it was the sheer relief that the pregnancy was over, or the excitement for the baby. I don't know. I think the sheer relief was just massively overweight almost, because yeah, it was just really hard.
I think it's really hard to differentiate between the two, because you've got that huge influx of emotion and hormone anyway, but just recognizing that both of those emotions were there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the actual experience of the C-section, I was quite happy with. I think
Yeah.
it was exactly what I needed at that time. I think
Yeah.
because the last thing I wanted to do, because I've done it so often, was that moment of being on the CTG, and when they try and find the heartbeat. And the last thing I wanted was having that measure constantly during birth, because it
Yeah.
can drop and all of that. And there would have not been enough oxytocin in the world to get me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I just don't
Yeah.
think I would have really struggled without a C-section.
Yeah. So she arrives after your C-section, all is well. Postnatal chapter starts. What did those first few days and weeks look like for you?
Yeah, she measured absolutely fine, completely healthy baby, and chubby cheeks, all of that. So there was everything we've gone through was
Quite surreal.
yeah, and for nothing really. That was amazing though, to see her and to see that she was fine. And then yeah, we had 4 weeks of pure newborn bliss, and yeah, my husband
Baby
was
bubble.
yeah, exactly. He was here and he was not working, and went out for 3-hour lunches, because she would just sleep, and we were all smug, thinking like, oh my god, this is amazing, and they just sleep all the time, and why is everyone saying this is so hard? And then yeah, we just walked down the seafront to get her to the town hall to register her, and I just felt this excruciating pain in my hips, and I was saying to Sam, oh my god, I don't know what this is, because obviously you're sore from the C-section and all of that.
Yeah.
But I felt really good really quickly.
Okay.
And yeah, I just couldn't believe it. It was insane, so painful. And we just cracked on, because I was very much in the whole time, I was very much in the mindset, right, we're just going to get back to normal, everything's fine, like we'll live our lives again.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think I was ignorant, but I think I was very unaware of what was going on in my body postpartum. I just got home and would carry on walking back, and got home, and I was in one of the worst pains I've ever felt in my life. And
In your hip?
in my, it was like around, my hips, I think it was the right hip in particular, but it's like lower back hip.
Okay.
And I went back to MAU, and then my C-section scar got a bit infected as well, so I went back, and they said, it can happen. Your body releases a lot of relaxin and makes everything quite soft. And they referred me to MSK, which is the I don't know exactly what it stands for. I don't know if you know.
I think it's musculoskeletal.
Yes, exactly. And then the actual horrible journey started. So I got referred for an MRI, and like a couple of weeks later, so the whole time I've been like in excruciating pain carrying Romy, and struggling doing household work or just anything really, because the pain was horrendous. And he called me back and he said, I've got the results from your MRI. It's like a month and a half later, and he said, you've got your sacrum bone. You can see a very clear fracture in there.
Wow.
So that means that and he said it's a really big bone, and it's a very, very rare thing. So it's sparked quite a lot of interest in the team. So we'll call you back there's a meeting, particularly with your case, where all the experts are going to gather, and then we'll call you back with what we think should be the treatment.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I felt like, oh my God, this is like Grey's Anatomy, when they're all fighting over who's getting the arm.
At least you know you're going to get good care.
Well, that's what I thought. But then they called me back like 3 hours later, saying, we think you should go on crutches and not carry anything. Don't carry the baby. And he said, do you carry the baby a lot? And I was like,
Yeah.
I've got this little human strapped to me in
Wants to be on me.
Yeah, and obviously Sot's law is that she went through a really horrible colicky phase at the same time. She couldn't be put down at all. She wouldn't sleep. Sitting down, or when I was sitting down. She wouldn't sleep when I was laying down. She had to be walked in the carrier. And then that walking turned into bouncing on the gym ball, and that's still where we're at. So she doesn't sleep independently at all. And and he said, oh, well, I don't really know what to advise then. So then referred me for physio, and to this point, that's all the care I had.
Really? So there wasn't any treatment whatsoever, just rest?
Just rest, but I was obviously not able to do that. So I was not able to lay still for 6 weeks with a newborn baby. So
what did you do?
Well, things got bad, really bad, because so she went, as I said, she went through that colicky phase, and my focus was on that. I had this baseline of pain which I was dealing with, and
a colic episode, that's a whole episode in itself, isn't it? But that's incredibly hard and draining and mentally challenging. And then, like you said, you've got this baseline of pain. I mean, a very easy kind of equation to feel really low and stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, coming out of that pregnancy, the cup was empty, really, really empty. You find the strength to keep going, but it was, when she was screaming so much with the pain going on, it was like someone grabbed my brain and tried to pull it apart. Scream for like 5-6 hours. So we're talking really long periods of time.
Yeah, so hard.
It was in the evenings, and then the day consisted of me walking her to sleep over and over again.
Relentless.
Exhausted. There was one moment where I caught Sam at work, and I was like, you need to come home. I can't deal with this anymore. And I felt so low that I felt like she wasn't safe with me anymore, because I didn't know whether, I just had this urge of just putting her somewhere and just going.
Really?
It was the screaming with the pain that it felt like someone was drilling into my brain.
Yeah.
And he came from work, obviously super concerned, and
I think we've all been in that position before, where we've been like, come home, I can't do it anymore. But that is with the pain as well. I can't imagine.
But it's just like, when you get into this position, like the guilt, right? The guilt is so much worse than anything else, because you just feel like the worst person in the world. And now looking back to this, I'm like, no, I wasn't the worst person in the world at all. I was a really good mum for saying, right, I just need support. And
Yeah, you cared.
which is a whole different topic, but I'm a firm believer that the way we're set up as mums and doing it all by ourselves, we're not meant to do it all by ourselves, especially not that close after giving birth,
No.
injured, and all of that. It's so hard. Like,
There's a lot to be said for Dutch health, postnatal care. They literally get a midwife who comes and literally spends 10 days straight with them and does like the practical stuff, from washing to shopping to, yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, particularly for people who might not have family near, or, you know, might have relocated like you. And
absolutely.
so what did you do to cope?
Well, we had, so that was the very same day. Sam and I were just sat at the table, and we're like, okay, what do we do? Something needs to change really, really urgently. And yeah, he made the best call, and that was given. So our amazing midwife Dawn, she ended up giving us her private number, and because she yeah, we just got on really well, and she was really invested in how Romy was growing up, and yeah, how she was doing after birth, how we were doing. And because she's seen many tears, and both of us crying every week in her when we saw her. And yeah, she just was amazing. And she messaged and said, right, you guys need well, sorry, I didn't say that. Sam reached out to her and said, is there any advice you can give us? Like, this is the situation. Is there anything to do? And she said, right, you need a postnatal doula. And that's pretty much where things changed and things got a lot better. And I was like, oh, I've heard of doulas before. And I know that my friend Ali, she had an amazing birth with the doula, and yeah, she's been supported by doula really well. But I didn't know that they were doing that postnatal doulas
That
exist.
existed, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to Google that, because yeah, I also have I've got this incredible network of mums who I met through it wasn't NCT, but that the sort of like baby course. And no one was really going through anything like that. So I kind of felt like, wow, this
Quite
is
isolated.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they were super supportive, but I could just tell that the colic thing and stuff, no other baby was going through to that extreme. And yeah, we reached out to Leah, who was recommended by Dawn, and I think that was on a Thursday night. And on Saturday, the loveliest woman gave me a phone call whilst I was out on the street sobbing that I don't know what to do. It's just too much, and I just want to be a good mum, and I just want to be there for her, but I don't know how, and this is so hard, and I can't get her to sleep, and I'm in pain. And she was so amazing, and she was so supportive and encouraging, and yeah, just amazing. It was the phone call I needed. She did this thing. So she reached out to a whole, again, what I didn't know, postnatal doula network in Brighton. I think I should probably say, so postnatal doulas, they're meant to come exactly what you just said about the midwives in the Netherlands. I think that the word doula comes from Greek servant. They do anything. They're the loveliest women who want to come and help you post birth, and who acknowledge the time, the vulnerable time that is postpartum, and they
Yeah.
acknowledge that all you should be doing. I think that's kind of that's what I've always heard, is lay in bed and feed the baby, and everything else should be taken care of by your family, or by people who support you as a family. And that's
Yeah.
so true. That is so true. So you get the time to bond and to, yeah, just be in this bubble and just be supported and not have to worry about anything else.
So you must have felt like an incredible, once she was with you and you were getting that practical help, this sense of relief. And I guess were you finally like, right, I can do this?
Yeah, so it took a while, for sure. So we reached out to this network, and they opened a WhatsApp group called Jules and Sam. help. And she invited everyone she knew in there, and she said, right, we need to put a rota together and get help sent to sent to this family every single day. And then
Right.
within, I think the turnaround must have been like 3 or 4 days.
Really?
Obviously there's a cost attached to it, so I'm not saying that there's
Yeah. And is it, like, just to be open and honest, is it expensive? Like, was it affordable, or because
um,
every day you said?
it was every day, yeah. So I mean, I guess it depends on what you consider expensive, and
Yeah.
it was absolutely worth the money. Absolutely, it is. It's not just, yeah. To be transparent, it's not. It is something that had to come out of our savings. We got support from our parents from it. I think we
Yeah.
paid for like around 3 months. We had support. I think they're around like £20 an hour roughly. So it was week by week, depending on, sometimes I had someone for 2 hours, sometimes I had someone
Yeah.
for 4 hours. So
Yeah.
it obviously it does add up, but I mean it's nowhere near the cost of, I don't know, a car, or it's nowhere near
Yeah.
of a mortgage or anything like that.
Yeah. And I guess priceless in terms of that
Exactly.
practical help and getting
Exactly.
through those first few months. Yeah.
And it's not like, and it's the cost that you happily pay, if you, I mean, obviously you need to have the support, and you need to have the money to do that. But it is a privilege, absolute privilege, and I think
Yeah.
I've acknowledged this the whole time, but it was
Yeah.
what we needed, and we're very fortunate to access that.
And if you hadn't had access to that, I mean, who's to say that your mental health might have rapidly declined, you might have needed a hospital admission, physically or mentally, in that scenario? Because, like you said, like, who has a newborn baby and gets told, right, no standing, no lifting, no, that's an incredibly unique situation. So it's amazing you were able to find that resource to help you at that time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't. We said this so many times. I don't know what would have happened. So, I mean, what happened in the end then, after we kind of exhausted the money and exhausted that money pot?
Service.
We ended up moving back in with my parents in Germany for a month and a half, just to have the. We both have amazing parents. They're so supportive, but we just
Mm.
needed. I needed to be
A
with my,
buffer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I needed my mum to look after me whilst
Yeah.
I looked after my baby. So we could
But
have.
that's a whole thing in itself, isn't it? I remember when I first had children, and you gain that whole new kind of element to your relationship with your mum, but a whole new level of appreciation for what they've done for you, and that realization of, wow, they did that for me. And particularly when you've had an operation and stuff, like, you do just want your mum, you want that comfort, and you want that, like, that one person who knows you better than anyone, just to share that, like, whoa,
Yeah,
with.
absolutely. I mean, it was the doulas. They're all. I think we ended up with 5 different ones, and every single one brought something else into our family. So we had Amy, who's is quite spiritual, and she did a lot of, like, she did energy healing with me, and she sat me
Nice.
down and she said, right, I'm gonna give you a really long hug, and I'm gonna clean the energy in this room, and she helped me, like, breathe again, because I came in, and because I always, when you have people coming in to help, you have to accept the help, and that is a really big thing as
Mm,
well, which I think no one thinks about as much. But with the baby, you feel the guilt, you feel, right, and the letting go of the control, and to
yeah.
rest. And I felt guilty for resting so many
Yeah, I
times.
can't imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just like, I'm not meant to give my baby to someone else. They're
Hmm.
so little, but I had to, and I needed to, and it was a really good thing. And then we had Anna and Lina and Leah, and yeah, all of them absolutely incredible. So if I, which after all of this, it's a very firm no on having more children,
Oh,
but
really? You've made that decision?
yeah, and it comes with great peace, to be honest with you.
Really? That is so good that you know, though, because again, if you wanted more children, that anxiety would, probably rear its head quite quickly, right?
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it again. And yeah, my body is still I've also then another issue cropped up that my period came back and it just didn't stop. So I had to undergo
Oh wow.
surgery for that. So at some point,
Oh wow.
yeah, then the lowest moment postpartum was me with an insanely heavy period. I've never struggled with periods really, and it was
Really?
really horrible. And I was sitting in adult nappies on a bouncy ball with a broken back, trying to get
Really?
the baby to sleep. Yeah,
Oh, that image that you just set, you
I
poor, poor
know.
thing.
So broken, so broken. You know,
Oh,
that
what we have to go through. It's
no,
just,
and yeah, I just I can't do that
you
again.
know, you know.
Yeah,
Sometimes your body's like, you know. Yeah.
I love her. I feel like the most fortunate person in the world to have her, and
Mm.
yeah, is worth. I mean, it's hard to say she's absolutely worth everything, but I feel like I could have also done without all of that. I don't feel like
Of
I
course.
needed to go through that to have her.
Trauma. Yeah, 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 yeah. And some people do have really easy pregnancies, really easy births, and it's hard when you haven't had that to see that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's
yeah,
why
and I
I've taken up counselling now because I just felt like that's something I just need to. I want to work through that. I don't want to.
process the trauma for
Because
sure.
I've got this like when I look at pregnant women on the street, or when I look at babies in the pram with their mums, I'm like, wow, you look so fit and healthy. Like lucky
And I
you.
didn't have that.
Exactly, and then I feel really upset for myself, and yeah,
Do you
I
know
don't.
the only thing that I would say to you in cafes, you see women, you see people postpartum, and you think, oh, why didn't I have that? You never know what's going on inside that person's head. And this is
Absolutely,
actually part of
absolutely.
the reason that Postnatal Minds exists, because we roam about with our prams, we go to baby groups, we look around, we think, oh, everyone's okay. Like, why do I feel like this? And actually, 9 times out of 10, 90% of people in the room are having exactly the same thoughts, but we need to talk about this more.
Yeah, you're so right. That's why I felt like that's why I feel so strong about talking about all of this openly, because
Mm.
I'm pretty sure that if I walk out and I'm when sent off home, that other mums might have looked at me thinking, oh my god, she's got it all together because I was wearing red lipstick and
Yeah.
jeans, whatever. And I think that the days where I look the most put together, I might even be the days where I feel
Yeah,
the
absolutely. And just because people are saying like, "Oh, I'm fine, it doesn't bother me," doesn't that might just be their way of coping with the opposite feeling. And you know, like you said about the acceptance of help and you know, reaching out. If people knew that that was there and that it was okay, I think the doula service would be fully booked and
hopefully,
possibly contracted to the NHS, because like as you said, every woman needs that, and we need to raise this conversation more and the services more, and you know, and so other women know that that's there for them, that they can access that, because so many people don't.
no, that's exactly why I feel, yeah, like I said, so strongly about sharing everything so openly, because the reason I found it hard, or the reason my mum friends are finding it hard, is not because we're not equipped or not because we're not good at it. It's because it is hard. It actually is really,
Mm.
really hard, and it's so much harder than anything you've ever done before, but it's also the most rewarding thing. But I feel like in that in between, it is so okay and so important to reach out for help and to not feel like you're a bad mum, or that no one else is struggling, because it's not true. It's not true at all. And
No.
there are people there to support, and there are people like postnatal doulas, like you said as well. Like they come to obviously we were an extreme case and we needed a lot of help. But even if you have
Sure.
someone coming in, you know, once a week, they come to the hairdresser with you. You know, you can ask a postnatal doula to come to a workout class with you and watch the baby once.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, everything is a conversation, and you can ask them to make you lunch, or you can ask them to just anything, you know, anything.
Yeah, they're flexible.
Yeah, and they celebrate motherhood, they celebrate women, and they want to help. And I think that's is a really, really beautiful thing. We shouldn't necessarily need to pay for ourselves, like you said. It shouldn't. I think there's a
No.
big case for
Aftercare.
for it to be part of
Yeah.
postpartum care. But I mean, the state of the NHS and all of that, that's
I
that's a
know.
whole
I
different thing.
know. That's why one of the reasons I'm here. But so
Yeah.
you've done your advice piece. How are you now? How is motherhood?
It has got a lot better for sure. I think what was the turning point for me was a little bit
Yeah,
once she started, can I say, gaining consciousness? I guess so, right? Like once she turned from,
more strong
yeah, and when she turned into a bit more of a person.
personality.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I can now do things with her, and we have lunch together.
you get that interaction back, and
Yeah,
that yeah,
exactly.
they're not so vulnerable. They're still vulnerable, but they're not as vulnerable.
Yes, exactly. Like when I pick her up, and I think I was saying that to my husband as well. When I pick her up, I can feel her core, so I can feel her. She doesn't flop anymore, and she does.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's a little person, and that was like her turning more into that and seeing the first couple milestones. That's what really changed it for me, and that's what made it, yeah, just really lovely, because then you feel the pride, and you feel that you have those happy moments, whereas before with a newborn it is so relentless, it's so
Mm.
nappy, feeding, changing, then they're sick, then they're colic, it's a lot more. And
I
the
always say it's like being on a treadmill that you can't get off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this for me pretty much like 6 months was the turning point, and being in Germany, and we finally, because I'm a planner, like, but I love a plan, I love a routine, I love solutions, and a newborn doesn't care about your routine.
Well, I was going to say that probably made your journey even more difficult in terms of accepting help and handing things over to others as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
strong, successful women, confident women struggle with that too. I
yeah.
certainly did. Yeah.
I think the higher you're, or if you're, I don't know, on a CEO level, or in a very high, what
Functioning job.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then
Yeah.
and I know that from some of my friends who have similar jobs, or who are in high pressure jobs, they're finding it the hardest, the lack of
Mm.
routine, and the lack of, yeah, just the predictability as well. I think, like, knowing, right, this is what comes next, and you get that back by this time now. It's a little bit, our days are all, they have a lot more structure, and that makes
Yeah.
it easier. But physically, I've sorted out the bleeding. I've had surgery for Christmas, and that was it was scary, but it was relatively straightforward. I was really
That's
lucky.
good.
um, I ended up in A&E a couple of times, so got surgery really quickly. Yeah, my back is still really, really bad. I can't access physio at the moment because I need a rescan, and there's really long waiting times, and yeah, that's still mentally really challenging. But
Yeah.
we'll get there. It's not. I think that's another thing I've realised. Like, nothing, the fixes for things, or
It's not quick.
it's not quick anymore. No, I think a lot of you just have to accept that things happen
Take
slowly,
time. Yeah. So true.
slowly get better, and not like straight away. And I'm used to having things fixed really quickly, but it's not like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. Like, the back is. I just wish there was a, because it's such a, because it's always there. It's like,
Yes, I was going to say it's in the background, but I was like, no pun intended. But it is, yeah. It's there, and it's not going anywhere. So you've got 3 months ish till Romy's first birthday, and you need to make sure that you celebrate you within that 1 year too, for all that you have got through and conquered. I mean, you just must have the most incredible amount of strength and resilience, and I mean that within, like, just going through it anyway, but also seeking that help and grabbing the bull by the horns and going for it. Like, you're incredible.
oh, thank you so much. That's really lovely. I will say, I do have an amazing support network, and especially my group of mum friends. again, like I think that would be my biggest advice for anyone pregnant: try and find your tribe.
Yeah,
And
bring everyone in.
yeah, my tribe has been incredible, so supportive, so open. Like, no, there's no like, oh, everything's fine in our house, everything's fine. No, it's the opposite. That everyone's really
It's
honest. And
so true.
yeah,
We my NCT girl WhatsApp group marked like 4.5 years of existence yesterday, and we were just like, wow, the amount of things that have been said in this group and explored, and it's so true. And you need those people, you need those women around for sure.
yeah,
Julia, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so interesting, and I really hope that there be people listening to this that think, oh my God, I need a doula, or I need to, I need that extra help, or even just taking that message about pulling people in and asking for help and seeking help when you need it, and that you don't have to just struggle alone is so
right.
important. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
And
having me.
no, and good luck and enjoy the last few months of maternity leave.
Thank you. I will.
See you later. Bye.